everyone. Happy Wednesday and welcome back to Sin City Crypto. My name is David and I'm back from vacation. I'll be one of your co-hosts. We have a amazing show today. We're talking about the FOMC. Jerome Powell will be wrecking or pumping the markets here in about T-minus 30 minutes. We should have already gotten the Fed rate hike coming in. We'll go over that in a second. We're also going to talk about Polygon and how they've partnered with Italy's central bank. What do they plan on doing? We're going to talk about that and much, much more. But first, here is your other co-host, and it's Rob.
Hola, it's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If it's your first time checking us out, well, how the hell did you find us? Because hard for any new people to find us. So I'm just curious. I'm legitimately curious. But if you did stumble across us, let me tell you something about us here. We are an entertainment-focused cryptocurrency channel where, unlike the other channels that falsely advertise entertainment, we do a damn good job of it. Take old, boring, and stale information and repackage it up in a fun and sexy way. Also, Bitcoin officially has not moved.
No Bitcoin.
Yesterday.
No Bitcoin. 25. So, guys, the CME was at over 99%. That are saying we're going to get 25 basis points. Well, here you go. 25 basis point rate hike. Now, what's going to be more interesting
is if banks collapse?
Is the FOMC minutes. So the FOMC minutes are pretty much a piece of paper, a transcript. That's the word I'm looking for. A transcript that shows what they talked about, why they decided to hike interest rates, who was for, who was against, and it gives us a little insight into what to expect moving into the next FOMC meeting. Robin, are you shocked? 25 basis points.
I am extremely floored, shocked. I didn't see this coming. Nah,
you know what?
Everybody knew it was coming.
Everyone knew it was coming. You know what everyone else knew was coming?
What's that?
Is they knew a beautiful 4K stream was coming. You know why? Because of channel sponsor Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you run a business and you want your networking, IT, and cybersecurity up to par with the best of the best, you're going to want to hit up Cam's Blue Wire Tech. Visit bluewiretech.com or simply click the link in the description of this video. Today's 4K stream is brought to you by them. Also, speaking of shocked, Robin, what if I told you cancer has been cured? Would you be shocked?
Sure.
Well, according to our Commander-in-Chief, President Joseph Robinette Biden, I might add his middle name is Robinette.
Why do you say that? Like,
sounds awfully familiar to Robin. That's all I'm just going to leave it at that. Well, here we have President Biden, and well, what did he have to say about cancer and curing cancer? Let's find out.
If you could do anything at all, Joe, what would you do? I said I'd cure cancer. They looked at me like, why cancer? Because no one thinks we can. That's why, and we can. We'd end cancer as we know it. If you could do anything at all.
We ended cancer as we know it. Robin, did you see any publications on this?
Is that a thing of the past? We're done with cancer.
And we're not making light of cancer. I've had family members who have had cancer. My grandmother passed from cancer, so I'm not making light of the...
But here's the thing, if we're going to throw the disclaimer out that we're not making light of cancer, which is 100% legit here, I'm not downplaying our statement there. But what I'm saying is that if this man is going to come out and say, we cured cancer, how does he not have a disclaimer? How are people that have, are fighting cancer currently don't get irritated with that, right?
You probably can't even spell disclaimer. Can you spell disclaimer?
I can't. I can also, while you were gone, I got a taste of the Twitter funny. So I also have some Twitter stuff here to pull up.
Wow.
Maybe we'd, have you ever taken any dance classes?
By the way, hold on. The one you showed about the ice cream sandwich in the bed. That was one of the funniest ones I've seen.
Well, here's one that might be just as funny. Have you ever taken dance classes?
Have I ever taken dance classes? No. I'm just naturally gifted.
Well, it's a thing. People get married to take dance classes. Now, if your wife is pregnant, doesn't mean you cancel.
Oh, I've seen this one.
Doesn't mean you cancel the classes, but here we go. So you got.
I was going to show this one today.
So, hold on, I got one more. All right, you ready? Yeah. All right. So here you have. You ever go to take the cat to the vet? They don't want to go.
Yeah.
or the dog develop. The cat usually kind of like scratching and being upset.
They know what's coming.
Same thing with the bathtub, right? You drag the cat to the bathtub, but sometimes you're trying to get the cat to the car. Well, say no more.
It's not a cat. That's a freaking lion. Jesus Christ.
That is a woman too. Like, props up to her, man. She's carrying a 150-pound gato over here, and it's just like, and this thing's trying to paw her face alive, and it's just like,
yeah. Don't play with tigers, guys. Don't play with big cats.
Right.
Now, I do want to, since today is FOMC day, I do have something FOMC related. Well, Rocco, go ahead and cue up my laptop. So here is a visual representation of the Fed trying to hold the economy together, and as a here we go. And now we're gonna collapse recession. No, okay, we're good. All right, guys, 25 basis points. Can we get another 25 basis point rate? 25. Oh my God, the economy's gonna collapse. Oh, no, we're good. That is literally what the Fed is doing. They're holding the economy together by 3 paper towels at the edge of a dresser.
Oscillating fan?
Oscillating fan.
That is one of the most underused, most appreciated words in my vocabulary.
Oscillating?
Yes.
Shocker.
It sounds fun to say, and it's just rarely used. So.
Yeah. Speaking of rarely used, this is rarely used. It should be used more. So this is for all of you visual learners. If you're wondering how the economy works, well, here we have economy is weak. Well, we got QE coming. Inflation is high. We raise rates and then soft landing, and then we crash into recession, and then we lower rates, and the cycle continues. That is why we are in the industry today, and that is why Congress people are so against our industry, cryptocurrency, because if cryptocurrency and digital assets and Bitcoin establish themselves as an escape from the current Ponzi-like monetary system we have, especially here in the US, well, guess what? They got to shut down the money printer. They can't just print money out of thin air to do whatever they want, and whether those are proxy wars or whatever the case may be, whatever you believe in, those days are gone. And so speaking of Congress, we have video from one of our favorites, Brad Sherman, today talking about our industry. Well, wait till you hear what he has to say. But first, I do want to share this. Now, Robin, and also, by the way, guys, we will be covering the Jerome Powell press conference live here in about 20 minutes. But first, did you, so have you been following the UFO whistleblower? They were having their testimony today in Congress.
UFO whistleblower?
Listen to this, bro. So this was tweeted by Anthony Pompliano. Said, wow, a witness just testified in front of Congress that the government has recovered non-human pilots. Non-human pilots. And so, well, Rocco, cue up the good old laptop, and here we go.
Contact with intelligent extraterrestrials.
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Non-human biologics.
How am I seeing this for the
Do you
first
believe our
time?
government has made contact with intelligent
Maybe you should be a Twitter degen like I am. Or sorry, ex-degen. But I'm not an ex-degen because I'm a current degen. See how I don't like how this goes?
Something
What the hell
I
is going on here?
can't
Why
discuss in
this
public setting.
Please minimize. Anyways, so if you are a non-believer in UFOs, are you a believer now, Robin? Are you a believer now in aliens?
No.
Interesting. Wait, hold on. No?
No.
You don't believe in aliens?
I don't believe aliens have visited Earth, man. I feel like the travel between other planets, intergalactic space is extremely large. Takes light. I think it's 15 years to get from the closest star to us. And that's the speed limit, right? And so, you can, I guess there's other ways of traveling, outside of just strictly to the speed of light. But I don't know, man. I just feel like, why would you come all this way to secretively spy on us, right?
Because they're trying to take our
Like, why are you coming here just to take a cow?
trying to take our technology.
Technology. If they got here,
The aliens built the pyramids.
they are way more advanced than we are.
Aliens built the pyramids.
Why would they build the pyramids and leave? Like,
Because there's like,
if
hey,
they're gonna build something, it wouldn't be a stone structure. Like, if we went to another planet, do you think we're just gonna build a pyramid? Like, I mean, think about it logically. Like, if we went to another planet, built a colony, built something, like if they built like a Statue of Liberty with like Trump's face on there, like that would make sense. Like, sure, but like if you're gonna build a monument, it's not gonna be just a simple structure made of stone that is, like, why?
Maybe their face was a pyramid. Maybe, who knows?
Good point, Rocco. Good point.
I don't know. Rocco, do you believe in aliens?
Yes.
I believe there's aliens. I just don't think they visited us yet.
They visited us.
That's my opinion.
All right, let's take a look at the crypto markets really quick. But before we do, I'd like to give a shout out to channel sponsor I Trust Capital. If you are a Bitcoin or Ethereum or any large altcoin hodler, and now even XRP, and you want to pull out your gains tax-free for retirement, you're going to want to set up an I Trust Capital account. They are the leading IRA and 401k retirement crypto account out there, or company out there. If you use a link in the description of this video, you will receive $100 after you fund your account. So big shout out to them. With that being said, Robin, what are the markets looking like after the 25 basis point rate hike announced by none other than Jerome Powell?
Well, real quick, before we jump into the markets, I do want to give a quick shout out to the chat as well. And so I don't know where everybody's at. They're apparently watching other channels of FOMC meeting. But
It's messed up.
for those of you that are here, we appreciate you. And let's beat the drum. Get more people in here. We can do that by hitting the like button. Also, David, did you like your desk like button? It was dumb?
Dumb.
I thought it was pretty good, man.
I want to use other words, but I don't.
There it is. There it is. See, now this was David's replacement. But intellectually similar, yes. Now,
Intellectually similar.
now, so we have Cindy Law, crypto fancy, and then we got Peninsulas, Eric Browning, L. Wright, Sir, and Bradley Boyko. To all of you, hola! Welcome to Sin City Crypto.
Now, do you remember what I asked you to show us earlier?
Markets. There it is. Now, we got Bitcoin coming in at $29,339.64, and up about $100 from where we were yesterday. So we're ticking back up. If you take a look at the 7-day, we're ticking back up from where we were, our low of a flat 29,000. So yesterday, yesterday we were at 29.2. Today we're at 29.3. And, surprisingly, not a lot of volatility. Oh, we did have a little
Robin?
pump up here. What's up?
Great segue that was. I'm going to stop you at volatility. Bless you. I'm going to stop you at volatility, and I'm going to raise you historic volatility. Bitcoin reaches record low volatility while a history-making move is ahead. This is sourced from the Bitcoinist. So a couple things I've highlighted here. Bitcoin price has barely moved in weeks, resulting in what is now the lowest volatility ever, according to Bollinger Bandwidth on the 1 week time frame. Man, we know anytime it's like, think about pulling a rubber band back, right? The longer you pull it back and once you let it go, the farther it's going to go.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think, and I'm not even joking on this, but perhaps maybe I'd say 10 years down the road, do you think that Bitcoin will be such a stable asset in price that it would be a hedge against volatility?
Yes.
And that the narrative that we have, it's too volatile, keep your money in savings bonds and treasury assets and maybe the S&P 500. And that narrative will shift and be like, hey, the S&P 500 is too volatile. Yes. The US dollar moves way too dramatically.
Yes.
Crazy, huh? But then at the same time, if it gets to that point, there's so much money in it. But then, as the market cap grows, it's harder to move the price.
I mean, you take a look at the on-chain metrics. I mean, just over the last year, 6 months, the long-term hodlers are growing. People are just not selling their Bitcoin. Then you're going to get more people coming into Bitcoin via
But this
traditional
is
system.
not something that can happen in the short term. I'll say that. because it's on track to get to $100,000 $1 million Bitcoin. I think within the next year, you're going to have $1 million Bitcoin. But I mean, with that said, it's going to be some time, and it's going to be some up and downs on the process there.
Yeah, and this also talked about, the article also talked about volatility has dropped so low, it caused the Bollinger Band on the weekly time frame to tighten to the most narrow width in the history of the first ever cryptocurrency. And well, that first ever cryptocurrency being Bitcoin, of course. I do have a Bitcoin chart here. So this is Bitcoin on the weekly. And some of you might look at this and say, well, it looks like kind of we have a head and shoulders pattern going on here. Well, the pattern is not confirmed until we break this yellow neckline, which would put us right around this $27,200 range. I do not think this is going to play out. To me, this looks more like a extended, long flagged, bull flag pattern. And we've seen similar patterns here. This is starting all the way back in January of this year. Big move up followed by a downtrending channel, big move up, downtrend channel. And we've broken up every single time. Oh, actually, this is the 3-day. My apologies. Let me go on the weekly here. So kind of same thing on the weekly, less pronounced on the head and shoulders, but here's the flag patterns I'm taking a look at. And this goes all the way back again to January of this year, move up, downtrending channel down, same thing here. And then we kind of looks like we're in the same scenario after 3 massive weekly candles. It looks like for every 2 months, we see a massive green candle and then chop sideways, trend down, massive green candle, chop sideways, trend down. And we're doing the same thing. And this line still, this line I had drawn on the 3-day is still relevant on the weekly chart as well. And well, what the article talks about is the Bollinger Band. So let's go ahead and throw those on really quick. And again, think of this like a slingshot, right? As volatility decreases, as pressure from the buyers and the sellers decrease and the Bollinger Bands start to tighten, there will be a big move to the upside. If we take a look at history, what is done once these Bollinger Bands are this tight, you take a look at this example here. We saw this was back in 2019, April of 2019. The Bollinger Bands got extremely constricted, and guess what? We saw a move of about 100, let's call it 200%. Now, will we see a 200% move now? I'm not saying that we're going to, but history might not repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. Some person smarter than I has said that one time. And so what are your thoughts there, Robin? Do you, lowest volatility we've seen, the Bollinger Bands are as tight as hell. I guess the question is, are we going to break up? Are we going to break down? And do you think we can get to 40K if it does break up?
Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if price moves down to 25, 26, and then consolidates down to that point. And then we kick off again back up above 30K. Now, I lay probably in the 50-50 range. Do we go down and test 25,000, or do we just trade here at 29 and head up to 30K? I don't know. I'm kind of split on that. And if we do go above 30K, I don't think that it's some parabolic run. Barring an ETF approval, outside of that situation, there's really nothing on the horizon that I could personally think of that would catapult Bitcoin to the next level. Now, perhaps a major country like Japan or Russia doing something dramatic that causes a supply shock.
You guys talked about this, was it yesterday or the day before? About Japan?
Japan.
Yeah.
It was pretty, we just kind of mentioned it. Now I know the Prime Minister did reference Web3 cryptos. Also, he referenced Bitcoin, and I mean, I don't know, man. I'm curious to see what that looks like. But we know that nation states, especially large ones, move slowly when it comes to finance, and especially Japan. They do not just YOLO into big financial movements in their markets. And so whatever they're planning, it's probably 3 to 4 years down the road. My opinion, I'm no expert in this area in politics in Asia, particularly Japan. So I don't know, but I do know that crypto in Japan has moved painfully slow in the past, and they have tighter regulation than most countries. I don't know if I would go as far as saying tighter regulations in the U.S. The U.S. is pretty tight lately, but
Yeah,
now
real tight. You know what else is real tight?
So I wouldn't expect anything to come out of Japan within the next 12 months that would be game changing. I think that they would more or less put in framework for.
Weren't you the guy that
adoption.
said? Weren't you the guy that said there's an arms race with nation states?
There is
Gonna happen.
But nations move
Arms
slowly.
race, right?
Okay,
The word is hold on. The word is race. So
on a global scale, the arms race has always been slow. Like to develop military dominance, to develop, to have a dominance on energy, commodities, oil, precious metals. Those things take a long time to accumulate. You can't just go out and just randomly buy up as much oil and gold as you can. Now, you can look at Bitcoin as, hey, this is a digital commodity that you can buy up at a moment's notice. You can just simply go to an exchange and buy everything they have behind the desk. You can do that. But nation states don't move that fast. They got to get approval for money. They have to justify it. They have to have a means to custody it. They need to explain why they did it, unless it's a dictatorship. You have to go through a process of doing that. And we know that, hey, just to submit a bill in the United States takes eternity. And all I'm saying is that if you look historically at Japan, to do anything in the crypto space has taken a very long time for them. And maybe Russia could move faster, but European nations aren't going to just at the drop of a dime just move billions of dollars into Bitcoin just because one person at the top of Congress there says it's a good idea, or Parliament, or whatever it is. And they need approval. They need to get bills, all that. So all I'm saying is take a minute, man.
all I'm saying is, for me, the infrastructure is there, right? You just need
It's not there.
to make the decision.
That's the thing. The infrastructure is not there.
The infrastructure to hold Bitcoin is there.
Coinbase custody is the only thing that comes up to mind.
Banks. BNY Mellon custodies crypto. They're one of the largest banks in the world.
Come on, man.
But let's move on.
If nation states are holding crypto, they're not going to go to BNY Mellon. I'm not saying they wouldn't, but I'm just saying that it would need to be more of a larger thought process that involves lots of different government parties. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, so, I've always thought me and you were the dynamic duo until I saw this picture. And, well, there's a new dynamic duo in town. That is none other than Gary and Brad.
Brad looks like a dentist giving the man over here a free toothbrush.
Yeah.
You know when you go to the dentist, they give you like one of those like cheap-ass dollar toothbrushes?
Yeah.
Man, I don't want this trash.
Yeah.
Like, you're literally trying to mess up my hygiene.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Actually, if they give you a cheap toothbrush, then you're more likely to come back, right?
Sure. Good point. Big shout out to Jimmy. Jimmy, $100 said, "Welcome home, David. Did you get my love letter?" I did. Thanks. Could tell you were never able to stay in the coloring lines in school. Thank you for that, Jimmy. Look under your desk. I already did. Thank you very much. All right, let's talk about today, congressional hearing on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bills pertaining to crypto and digital assets. And well, of course, the Banking Committee, the Financial Services Committee, one of those ranking members is none other than California Congressperson Brad Sherman, one of our favorites.
I hate him.
I hate him as well. Okay. Let's hear what the man had to say about, crypto. And there's a new founder of Bitcoin. There's someone else in the industry. Well, let's take a look at what he had to say.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Seek to speak for 5 minutes on the bill in general.
The gentleman is recognized to strike the last word.
First, I want to address an unintended consequence of this bill, because it's designed just to deal with crypto assets. But it will allow publicly traded companies to tokenize their equity securities and then circumvent SEC regulation, choosing instead to be regulated by the CFTC. So if you have an investment in Apple or General Motors, this bill means you don't get protected. Now let's look at the intended consequences. The scent of Sam Bankman-Fried still wafts in the air here in the Rayburn building. The criminal
like
in
hot
fuzzy
cucumbers?
hair
Like, what
and
is this
shorts.
scent?
The scent of Sam Bankman-Fried.
I mean, like, what
Let me
is
ask
that
a question. When I
smell?
was gone, did my scent still rule?
It actually
walls
did.
of this-
It did. The scent was here for quite some time.
Wow. Thanks.
Smelled like hot peanut butter.
Wow.
Had one objective: keep the SEC out of cryptocurrency. Today, the crypto billionaire bro.
Okay, so
I hate
listen.
that. I hate
the
that.
crypto billionaire bros. I know, but listen to what he had to say. He said Sam Bankman-Fried was roaming the halls of this building to keep the SEC out. He was meeting with the SEC. What are you talking about? He was trying to be the first exchange that was SEC compliant and regulated and shut everyone else out. What are you talking about, dude? And it's funny. These are the people that are going to be making decisions on our regulation in our industry. All right, let's keep playing.
Those have the same objective, though they are attired more conventionally. And make no mistake, all the money, power, PACs, and lobbying is on their side, for they have made nearly $2 trillion they make money by literally making money. In contrast, there are no PACs and lobbyists in favor of effective tax enforcement, or preserving the ability to enforce our sanctions laws, or providing to the American families the thousands of dollars of benefit they get every year, each and every one, from the fact that the U.S. plays such a critical role as a reserve currency. Yes, it is true the United States also makes money by printing money. That benefit goes to the American people when we provide...
No, it doesn't. That benefit goes to the politicians and the rich people, and it hurts the American people. Like, everything that is wrong with the economy lately, everything that any person, any regular average individual that goes out here and is paying twice as much for gas in the last 5 years and twice as much for an apartment in the last 7 years, each one of those people is a direct cause and effect from you printing. So it does not benefit the American people. It benefits you, Mr. Sherman, for your reelection. It benefits all of your constituents. It benefits the people that funded your campaign, but it does not benefit. Printing does not benefit the average American person. It does not. It does not. It does not. That shit pisses me off, man.
The U.S. government also prints money, but it's okay because everyone benefits,
If
right?
you wanted to say we need policies, we have Medicare, whatever, sure, you can sit here and say it's neat. I'm not even going to say, like, at this point, we're so addicted to printing, we can't come off it. So I'll be the first person to tell you, like, hey, at this point, if you want to keep our financial dominance, we're going to have to keep printing money. That's just the situation we're in. Or we can have a financial collapse, a reset, and try to get back to the top. Yeah, we can do that. But I'm not saying that the best interest of the United States in the current position that we're in is to not print. I wouldn't say that. But to sit here and say that it is in the best interest of the American people, and that's who benefits the most, is completely and factually incorrect.
All right.
Pissed off.
JP is live.
My boy's live.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. We understand the hardship that high inflation is causing, and we remain strongly committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal. Price stability is the responsibility of the Federal Reserve. Without price stability, the economy doesn't work for anyone. In particular, without price stability, we will not achieve a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. Since early last year, the FOMC has significantly tightened the stance of monetary policy. Today, we took another step by raising our policy interest rate a 0.25 percentage point, and we are continuing to reduce our securities holdings at a brisk pace. We've covered a lot of ground, and the full effects of our tightening have yet to be felt. Looking ahead, we will continue to take a data-dependent approach in determining the extent of additional policy firming that may be appropriate. I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Recent indicators suggest that economic activity has been expanding at a moderate pace. Growth in consumer spending appears to have slowed from earlier in the year. Although activity in the housing sector has picked up somewhat, it remains well below levels of a year ago, largely reflecting higher mortgage rates. And higher interest rates and slower output growth also appear to be weighing on business fixed investment. The labor market remains very tight. Over the past 3 months, job gains averaged 244,000 jobs per month, a pace below that seen earlier in the year, but still a strong pace. The unemployment rate remains low at 3.6%. There are some continuing signs that supply and demand in the labor market are coming into better balance. The labor force participation rate has moved up since last year, particularly for individuals aged 25 to 54 years. Nominal wage growth has shown some signs of easing, and job vacancies have declined so far this year. While the jobs to workers gap has narrowed, labor demand still substantially exceeds the supply of available workers. Inflation remains well above our longer run goal of 2%. Over the 12 months ending in May, total PCE prices rose 3.8%. Excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 4.6%. In June, the 12-month change in the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, came in at 3.0%, and the change in the core CPI was 4.8%. Inflation has moderated somewhat since the middle of last year. Nonetheless, the process of getting inflation back down to 2% has a long way to go. Despite elevated inflation, longer-term inflation expectations appear to remain well anchored, as reflected in a broad range of surveys of households, businesses, and forecasters, as well as measures from financial markets. The Fed's monetary policy actions are guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. My colleagues and I are acutely aware that high inflation imposes significant hardship as it erodes purchasing power, especially for those least able to meet the higher cost of essentials like food, housing, and transportation. We're highly attentive to the risks that high inflation poses to both sides of our mandate, and we are strongly committed to returning to inflation to our 2% objective. At today's meeting, the committee raised the target range for the federal funds rate by 0.25 percentage point, bringing the target range to 5.25% to 5.5%. We are also continuing the process of significantly reducing our securities holdings. With today's action, we've raised our policy rate by 5.25 percentage points since early last year. We have been seeing the effects of our policy tightening on demand in the most interest rate sensitive sectors of the economy, particularly housing and investment. It will take time, however, for the full effects of our ongoing monetary restraint to be realized, especially on inflation. In addition, the economy is facing headwinds from tighter credit conditions for households and businesses, which are likely to weigh on economic activity, hiring, and inflation. In determining the extent of additional policy firming that may be appropriate to return inflation to 2% over time, the committee will take into account the cumulative tightening of monetary policy, the lags with which monetary policy affects economic activity and inflation, and economic and financial developments. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting based on the totality of the incoming data and their implications for the outlook for economic activity and inflation, as well as the balance of risks. We remain committed to bringing inflation back to our 2% goal and to keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Reducing inflation is likely to require a period of below-trend growth and some softening of labor market conditions. Restoring price stability is essential to set the stage for achieving maximum employment and stable prices over the longer run. To conclude, we understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
All right, so real quick before we continue
Mr. Chairman,
to talk,
thank you.
Never mind.
you have, I think, a couple times in your opening remarks talked about this language in determining the extent of additional policy firming that may be appropriate. Should we take that to mean that additional hikes are likely on the way? And should we also believe that all future meetings, say September and November, are live, or are you in a every other meeting mode? Thank you.
So we haven't made a decision to go to every other meeting. It's not something we've looked at. We're going to be going meeting by meeting, and as we go into each meeting, we're going to be asking ourselves the same question. So we haven't made any decisions about any future meetings, including the pace at which we'd consider hiking. But we're going to be assessing the need for further tightening that may be appropriate. You read the language, to return inflation to 2% over time. I would say that the intermeeting data came in broadly in line with expectations. Economic activity remained resilient. Job creation remained strong while cooling a bit. And the June CPI report actually came in a bit better than expectations for a change. And the June CPI report, of course, was welcome, but it's only one report, 1 month's data. We hope that inflation will follow a lower path it will be consistent with the CPI reading. But we don't know that, and we're just going to need to see more data. So what are we going to be looking at? Really, it will be the whole broader picture. And starting with, we're looking for moderate growth, right? We're looking for supply and demand through the economy coming into better balance, including in particular in the labor market. We'll be looking at inflation. We'll be asking ourselves, does this whole collection of data, do we assess it as suggesting that we need to raise rates further? And if we make that conclusion, then we will go ahead and raise rates. So that's how we're thinking about the next meeting, and how we're thinking about meetings going forward potentially. But we're now mainly thinking about the next meeting. I will also say, since we're talking about it, between now and the September meeting, we get 2 more job reports, 2 more CPI reports. I think we have an ECI report coming later this week, which is Employment Compensation Index, and lots of data on economic activity. All of that information is going to inform our decision as we go into that meeting. I would say it is certainly possible that we would raise funds again at the September meeting if the data warranted. And I would also say it's possible that we would choose to hold steady at that meeting. We're going to be making careful assessments, as I said, meeting by meeting. And I'll close by saying we've raised the federal funds rate now by 525 basis points since March 2022. Monetary policy, we believe, is restrictive and is putting downward pressure on economic activity and inflation.
What's interesting to me is he says we haven't felt the full effect of our tightening, yet he continues to tighten. Are we at a point now where Jerome Powell is so afraid of being the guy that let inflation run rampant or stopped too early or started, pivoting too early, that he's actually going to cause significant harm to everyday people? And then on the flip side, he's going to have to start dropping rates even faster, quantitative easing even faster, which is going to put us in a worse situation. For me, I'm not a Federal Reserve expert. I'm not a monetary expert, but I know common sense. And common sense tells me that if numbers are trending down and you know that it's taken effect, and it's still not even the last 2 or 3 rate hikes have fully taken effect in the economy, why would you not wait? And if numbers start to spike again, then hike up interest rates. It's my 2 cents.
If I could just briefly follow up on something you said there. You said the data in the intermediate period, it broadly came in line with expectations. Does that mean there's unlikely to have been a change in the overwhelming outlook of the committee that 2 more hikes are necessary?
I'm just going to go back to what I said. That's the question. We have 8 weeks now until the September meeting, and all that data that I recited, we're going to be looking at all of that and making that assessment then. And it really, we did have the one good reading, and of course we welcome that, but it's just one reading, as everybody knows. And we've seen this before in the data. Many forecasts call for rates for inflation to remain low, but we just don't know that until we see the data. So we'll be focusing on that.
Thank you. Thanks for taking our questions, Chair Powell. Obviously, you upgraded the language around growth in the statement today. We've seen the Barbie movie numbers. We've seen everyone going to Taylor Swift concerts this summer. It seems like the American consumer is in pretty good shape. And it does seem like growth is sort of picking back up a little bit, or at least doing well. And I wonder, from your perspective, if that continues, if we see growth not just stabilizing, but doing, performing well this summer, is that a problem because it's inflationary, or is it good news because it suggests that a soft landing is more likely? Just how are you thinking about that sort of trajectory?
I'm just is the new measure of economic activity the ticket sales for the Barbie movie
And Taylor Swift.
Like how is this a serious question? How are you backing economic activity for the United States by the attendance of the Barbie movie and Taylor Swift concerts? Like, on what planet are we living on? I'm sorry.
I think it's actually a decent softball question
Do
to
not.
get him to answer the question she asked. Does this mean we're in for a soft landing? If you flat out ask him, hey, are we in for a soft landing? He's going to give you the same mumbo jumbo. But if you throw something like that in there, you might get a little tidbits
care
of
about the
information.
Barbie movie or Taylor Swift.
Exactly.
So
you might go into a little more detail. I know, but I'm curious to hear what he had to say. So let's hear what Jerome Powell had to say.
Yeah, so I would say it this way. The overall resilience of the economy, the fact that we've been able to achieve disinflation so far without any meaningful negative impact on the labor market, the strength of the economy, overall, that's a good thing. It's good to see that, of course. It's also, you see consumer confidence coming up and things like that. That will support activity going forward. But you're right, though. At the margin, stronger growth could lead over time to higher inflation, and that would require an appropriate response from monetary policy. So we'll be watching that carefully and seeing how it evolves over time.
Thanks, Chair Powell. Neil Irwin from Axios. So as you referenced earlier, in the intermeeting period, soft CPI, jobs reports, still strong but moderating, JOLTS looks good. So if you're data dependent, why not pause again? Why not stay on hold? Why not take another meeting off when the data was at least cutting in the direction you want to see?
So if you go back to what we're trying to do here, we're trying to achieve a stance of policy that's sufficiently restrictive to bring inflation down to 2%. At the last meeting, we wrote.
There is your answer right there. And I said it before the guy asked the question. Does he care more about being the person? And the answer is yes. He just said it out of his mouth. He just said it. Like, we're at a point now where the Fed is so worried about their image in the American public that they risk putting the government out of, or increasing the government balance sheet, including their own, the Fed's, because guess what? As you raise interest rates, servicing our debt becomes more expensive. We're closing in on $1 trillion of just interest payments.
Down our individual estimates of what that would take, and the median of that was an additional 2 rate hikes. So I would say we looked at the intermeeting data, and as I mentioned, broadly consistent, not perfectly consistent, but broadly consistent with expectations. And as a result, we went ahead and took another step. And that's a labor market that continues to be strong, but gradually slowing. I mentioned that the inflation report was actually a little better than expected, but we're going to be careful about taking too much signal from a single reading. And growth came in stronger than expected. So that's how we look at it, and so we did take that step today.
Nick Timmeros of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, markets widely believe the median FOMC participants' inflation forecast from June for the fourth quarter of this year will be too high, given autos and shelter, and that by September that may warrant a downward revision in the inflation forecast of 20 to 30 basis points. Would that type of inflation progress be enough to hold rates steady from here, or do you need to see below-trend growth and decelerating labor income growth to be convinced that you've done enough?
So it's hard to pick the pieces apart and say, how much of this and how much of that. We'll be looking at everything. And, we'll be looking to see whether the signal from June CPI is replicated or the opposite of replicated, or whether it's somewhere in the middle. We'll be looking at the growth data. We'll be looking at the labor market data very closely, of course, and making an overall judgment about that. It's the totality of the data, I think, but with a particular focus on making progress on inflation.
If I could follow up, last month you said there were benefits to moderating the pace of increases because it would give you more information to make decisions. Would another CPI report like the one we just had in June allow you to at least maintain that slower pace and defer until the fall any decision on whether you need that second rate hike?
So I'm just going to tell you again what we're going to do in September. We're going to look at 2 additional job reports, 2 additional CPI reports, lots of activity data. And that's what we're going to look at, and we're going to make that decision. And that decision could mean another hike in September, or it could mean that we decide to maintain at that level. And again, the question we're going to be asking ourselves is the overall signal one that we need to do more, that we need to tighten further? And if we get that signal whenever we get it, then, and that's the collective judgment of the committee, then we will move ahead. If we don't, then we'll have the option of maintaining policy at that level. But it's really dependent so much on the data, and we just don't have it yet.
Hi, Chris Rugaber at Associated Press. So consumer confidence in the economy is rising, likely in large part because of the declines in headline inflation. You also see wages are also rising faster than prices now after trailing them for a long time. How much are Americans truly harmed by inflation at its current level, headline level of 3%? And with that in mind, when do you put some weight back on the employment side of the dual mandate?
So I guess I'd say it this way. First, it is a good thing that headline inflation has come down so much, because that's really what the public experiences. And I would say that having headline inflation move down that much almost creates it will strengthen the broad sense that the public has that inflation is coming down, which will in turn, we hope, help inflation continue to move down. So you were really, sorry, but what your question was?
Well, I mean, you've talked for many press conferences now about the harm created by inflation, how hard it is for people. So how much of that are we still seeing with inflation now down at 3%?
So I guess I would put it this way. I'd say it this way. It's really a question of how do you balance the two risks, the risk of doing too much or doing too little. And, I would say that, we're coming to a place where there really are risks on both sides. It's hard to say exactly whether they're in balance or not, but as our stances become more restrictive and inflation moderates, we do increasingly face that risk. But, we need to see that inflation is durably down that far. As you know, we think, and most economists think, that core inflation is actually a better signal of where headline inflation is going, because headline inflation is affected greatly by volatile energy and food prices. So we would want core inflation to be coming down, because that's what we think core is signaling where headline's going to go in the future. And core inflation is still pretty elevated. There's reason to think it can come down now, but it's still quite elevated. And so we think we need to stay on task, and we think we're going to need to certainly hold policy at a restricted levels for some time, and we need to be prepared to raise further if we think that's appropriate.
Well, and then if inflation were to, just a quick follow, if it stays at 3% or drops even a little bit more, I mean, how much of an increase in unemployment do you think is acceptable to get that last bit of inflation? People are talking about the potential difficulty of the so-called last mile of inflation. So, but how much unemployment do you think is justified to get down that last?
So it is a very positive thing that actually the unemployment rate is the same as it was when we lifted off in March of 22 at 3.6%. So that's a real blessing, and that we've been able to achieve some disinflation. And we don't seek to. It's not that we're aiming to raise unemployment, but I would just say the historical record. We have to be honest about the historical record, which does suggest that when central banks go in and slow the economy to bring down inflation, the result tends to be some softening in labor market conditions. And so that is still the likely outcome here. And we hope that that's as little as possible. We have to be honest that is the likely outcome. The worst outcome for everyone, of course, would be not to deal with inflation now, not get it done. Whatever the short-term social costs of getting inflation under control, the longer-term social costs of failing to do so are greater, and that the historical record is very, very clear on that. If you go through a period where inflation expectations are not anchored, inflation is volatile, it interferes with people's lives and with economic activity, and that's the thing we really need to avoid and will avoid.
All right, we're gonna stop it there. If you want to catch the rest of it, there's about 10 minutes left, but we're just kind of give our takes on what Jerome Powell said. And Rob, what are your initial thoughts? I mean, obviously, everyone was expecting 25 basis points. And is there anything he said that kind of stood out to you or surprised you? It talked about we're lucky to have disinflation with unemployment staying steady. We haven't seen the full effects of the rate hikes. He's consistently being asked the same question in different terms. When do you plan on stopping? And he refuses to give that answer. What are your thoughts in general?
I didn't hear anything that was
significant or
new or different. And I think that is, it translates exactly into the markets, both the stock market and the Bitcoin market, all pretty flat. I mean, you look at the S&P 500, it's only up currently 0.2%, and that's on the S&P. Bitcoin is right where it was when we started the show. So the markets are flat, and that's because he didn't say anything new or different. I mean, we started the show at 29.3. We had the expected move, which was the 0.25 rate hike, and he echoed the exact same press conference responses that he said over and over again. And so for that reason, no surprise here. So no surprise in the markets, right?
Yeah.
And for me, my question is there going to be another hike? Because now at this point, I think, it's out the window on what do we expect for rate hikes, right? Don't you agree that I think the next Fed meeting will be the most important in relative
we have 2 months.
Relative time window where, the most important were maybe like the first 3. When were we going to stop this environment of just 0% and just infinite borrowing and printing? And
I actually
once we started it, then after a while, once we came to grips that the Fed was not going to stop, it sank into reality. Everything after the first, let's say 5 or 6 rate hikes. Now at this point, we're like, okay, here's another one that's expected. But we're finally at a point where the experts, economics, they don't know if we're going to get another rate hike. And you can even look at the CME, and it's putting it at a perhaps they're projecting a cut by the end of the year. All right. So if you take a look at December's, and so right now, right now we have the expectation of 61%. This is by the end of the year to be exactly where we're at today. So a complete pause for every meeting till 2024. And then you have almost a 30% likelihood of one more rate hike. You got a 5% likelihood of a cut. Nobody thinks that we're going to be 2 more 25 rate hikes. So the markets are unsure. And if we get in a situation where we think that there is going to be another rate hike, then I think it's going to be an extreme stress on the system. And let's not forget what are we doing here? We're increasing the amount of interest that the individuals are going to be borrowing from banks, that companies are borrowing from banks as well and institutions. Let's say open up a new bank branch to expand operations, to buy another facility.
Slows everything down.
Yeah, it slows everything down. And we see that the mortgage rates are up. I think, I don't know where they're at right now, but I know I've heard 7%. I don't know if that's where it is.
Pretty sure they'll be over 7%.
And people are getting priced out of homes. Like, what does this mean for the home market? And not to forget, it was just a few months ago we had the 3 banks collapse, right? The PAC, what was the California bank? Was it PAC?
Silicon Bank.
Yeah, the Silicon Bank.
Sequoia.
No, PAC West.
Is it PAC West? No, it was the one with the bear on there. Whichever one that one was. But so several banks went under, and it was a direct effect of the interest rates. And now that is ratcheted up. There's more leverage, and so you're even more underwater if you're holding treasury bonds. Oh, First Republic. Yeah. So First Republic, Silicon, and Signature. And, Pac West, the reason that rang a bell was that their stock prices had recently dropped as well earlier this week.
But guess who stepped in? Guess who stepped in to save the banks? The same person that had made the other banks go under. Some argue.
But they're trying to fight inflation, but they're printing to save the banks that are underwater because of the rate hikes. It's like a vicious circle, right? And at some point, something's going to break. That business model can't sustain itself, right? And so you can either keep raising interest rates to slow down the economy, to bring down inflation, or you can, or what'll happen is you raise interest rates, the banks go under, and you print tons of money to keep them from going under, which in turn would increase inflation rates. So at some point, one of those business models are going to, but here's the thing, the financial markets are so fickle, they're so large, they're so complicated, there's so many inputs and variables, and that there are more unforeseen consequences from raising the interest rates that are more that are a lot broader than simply, hey, banks are going to go under. There's a lot going on. And as we mentioned, we do have the credit bubble, we have the student loans coming back on, the payments for that. And then you have the housing market. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could potentially go wrong with more interest rate hikes. And so, yeah, we've added another one.
Speaking of adding another one, we will be adding another special live show this Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're doing a special in-studio collab with George from Cryptos R Us, and there might be one or two other special guests in studio joining us. You're not going to want to miss that. Well, how are you going to make sure you don't miss that? Well, one, you're subscribed to the channel. B, most importantly, you have your notification bell on. And so we'll be doing a special live stream on Saturday. Also, to those of you that are joining us, the winners of the giveaway for the VIP party here in Vegas at the Foundation Room at the Mandalay Bay, we look forward to partying with you this Saturday. So big shout out there. Also, Robin, I'd like you to please butcher some people's names.
I don't have any names ready. Yeah.
Okay.
So there we go.
Quant Father. Wonder if he's a Quant fan. Welcome to the channel. And a few other people. I see a lot of comments after the show like, hey, I'm not new here, but thanks for the shout out. Guys,
it's until your name is
ingrained in Robin's small peanut brain. God bless you. And your brain. Okay, I lied. It's not peanuts. More like a walnut. Either way, they will be ingrained. Also, I do want to give another shout out to channel sponsor, Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If your business is looking for IT and cybersecurity solutions, there's no other better company to help you through those troubles and to maximize and optimize your network and your cybersecurity than Cam's Blue Wire Tech. Visit bluewiretech.com. So big shout out to them. Also, big shout out to our merchandise merchant. Is that the right word? Either way,
definitely not.
InternetCrypto.com. Not only Sin City Crypto merch, but regular crypto merch as well. If you're an XRP fan, Cardano, Ethereum, Shibarium, and all the likes, visit that store. And also follow us on Twitter, follow us on all the social medias, and follow this finger.
Jeez.
You were terrible, by the way, at the finger tornado.
It's because the whole thing is terrible.
Gotta work on that.
The whole thing is terrible. It's equally as terrible when you do it.
Yours was better. Guys, we thank you so much for tuning in. Rocco?
Okay.
That was a left-handed tornado as well. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm excited to be back. Come back tomorrow. Same place, same time. On behalf of myself, Robin, and Rocco, we love you guys. Until tomorrow. Peace.
Sin City Crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I spit the game, but they gave it. Name the coin, it's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to wind, screaming hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.